In the quiet hours before dawn, when the desert air is cool and the horizon glows faintly with the promise of sunrise, the pyramids of Giza appear not as monuments, but as memories made of stone. They rise from the sand with an unhurried patience, their massive forms softened by time, wind, and silence. For more than 4,000 years, they have watched the slow turning of the stars, the rise and fall of empires, and the endless passage of human footsteps that came seeking answers. Most visitors stand beneath these ancient giants and look upward. But the deepest mysteries of Egypt were never meant to be found above the ground. They were placed below it, hidden beneath layers of limestone and sand, beneath sealed passages, forgotten corridors, and chambers untouched since the age of the pharaohs, lies a world that even today remains only partially known. And it is there, beneath the pyramids, that our journey begins. The land that hid its secrets, ancient Egypt, was a civilization built not merely on land, but on belief. The Nile gave life to crops and cities, but it was the unseen world, the afterlife, the divine order, the eternal cycle that shaped how Egyptians built, carved, and sealed their greatest works. To the ancient mind, what lay beneath the earth was not darkness, it was permanence. Burial chambers were not places of death, but of transition. Tunnels were not meant for wandering, but for guiding the soul. Doors were not designed to open again, but to protect what was sacred from time itself. The pyramids, therefore, were never simple tombs. They were carefully planned landscapes beneath the earth, maps of stone guiding the king from mortal life toward eternity. And yet, even after centuries of study, we are still discovering spaces no human foot has touched since the Old Kingdom. The pyramid as a living structure, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest ever built, is often described in numbers, height, weight, precision. But those who have studied it closely know something else. It is hollow, not empty, but intentionally structured. Narrow shafts pierce its interior like veins. Long corridors descend into the bedrock beneath. Chambers are stacked, aligned, and sealed with astonishing foresight. Some passages slope downward into darkness. Others rise gently toward hidden rooms. Granite blocks weighing many tons were slid into place with such precision that even today, a blade cannot slip between them. And beneath the pyramid itself, below the known chambers, lies something even more intriguing. A descending passage leads deep into the earth, far below the level of the desert floor, to a rough-hewn chamber carved directly into the living rock. This subterranean chamber, unfinished and strangely silent, raises questions no inscription has ever answered. Why was it begun? And then abandoned? Or was it never abandoned at all? Forgotten tunnels and unanswered designs. When early explorers entered the pyramids, they believed they had found all there was to find. But the ancient builders had a different sense of time. They designed their structures to outlast civilizations, to hide knowledge not just from thieves, but from history itself. Modern scans have revealed voids, empty spaces, within the Great Pyramid that were never recorded in ancient texts. These voids are not random. They are placed with intention. Above the Grand Gallery, a vast empty space stretches silently, unseen for millennia. Its purpose remains unknown. No artifacts, no inscriptions, no clear explanation. It simply exists, waiting. And beneath the pyramid complex, ancient tunnels extend outward, some natural, some carved, some expanded over generations. Not all of them lead to burial chambers. Some lead nowhere at all, or perhaps somewhere not yet found. Sealed doors and silent thresholds. In the late 20th century, robotic explorers were sent into narrow shafts too small for humans. Deep within one of these shafts, a small limestone door was discovered, smooth, polished, and fitted with copper handles. Behind it was not treasure, but another door. And then another, each sealed, each untouched. No writing explained who was meant to open them or when. These doors were not built to be broken into. They were built to remain closed. Their presence suggests rituals or knowledge meant only for those who understood their purpose, knowledge that may have been symbolic, spiritual, or aligned with the stars above. The pyramids, after all, were not isolated from the sky. They mirrored it. The sky reflected below the shafts within the Great Pyramid align with specific stars, Orion, Sirius, and others sacred to the ancient Egyptians. To them, the soul of the pharaoh did not simply rise upward. It traveled through stone passages aligned with cosmic order. The underground chambers may have represented the Jewet, the underworld journey the soul must pass through before reaching eternal life. In this sense, the tunnels were not meant for the living at all. They were built for something else. Silence that has never been broken. Many of the chambers beneath the pyramids show no signs of use. No soot from torches, no footprints, no offerings. They exist in perfect stillness, sealed by intention. Some Egyptologists believe these chambers were symbolic, ritual spaces never meant to be entered. Others believe they remain unopened simply because we have not yet found the correct way in. The ancient Egyptians did not think in terms of discovery. They thought in terms of preservation. What they hid, they meant to remain hidden, at least until the right moment. Gentle transition forward as the sun rises higher above the Giza plateau, the stones warm, and the desert begins its daily rhythm. Tourists arrive, cameras flash, voices echo briefly, then fade. But beneath it all, the ancient corridors remain unchanged, waiting. In the next part of our journey, we will descend deeper, beyond the known passages, into the forgotten engineering beneath the pyramids, where bedrock chambers, water systems, and unexplained design choices suggest a purpose far more complex than a royal tomb. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened into the morning air, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. As the outer world fills with light, warmth, and the distant murmur of modern life, the true heart of the pyramid remains untouched by the passing day. Deep below the desert surface, beneath limestone blocks shaped with care and purpose, there exists a chamber that does not announce itself with grandeur or ornament. It waits in silence. This chamber is older than nearly every written record of Egypt. It lies below the Great Pyramid itself, carved not from fitted stone, but directly from the living bedrock of the plateau. Rough, unfinished, quiet, and for generations it has raised a question that still echoes softly through the corridors of time. Why would the builders of the most precise structure in the ancient world leave a chamber incomplete, hidden where no one was meant to see it? The descent into the earth, the path to the subterranean chamber, begins with a downward sloping passage, narrow and deliberately angled. As one moves deeper, the air cools, sound changes. Footsteps echo with a hollow softness as though the stone itself is listening. Unlike the grand corridors above, this passage feels older, more primal. Its walls are less polished, its angles less refined. This descent was not meant to impress. It was meant to lead inward. The ancient Egyptians believed that creation itself emerged from the primeval mound, land rising from the waters of chaos. To descend into the earth was to return to the moment before order, before form. The downward passage, then, may not have been a construction error or abandoned idea. It may have been intentional, a symbolic return to the beginning. The subterranean chamber revealed at the base of the descending passage lies the subterranean chamber. Its floor is uneven. Its walls are irregular. The ceiling rises and falls in rough planes, untouched by the finishing tools seen elsewhere in the pyramid. A deep pit opens in the floor, plunging further into darkness. Its purpose remains unknown. No sarcophagus rests here. No inscriptions speak. No offerings were left behind. The chamber feels less like a tomb and more like a threshold. Egyptologists have debated this space for decades. Some say it was abandoned when plans changed. Others believe it was the first chamber constructed, marking the earliest phase of the pyramid's design. But another interpretation lingers quietly among researchers, that this chamber was never meant to be finished. A space of symbol, not stone in ancient Egyptian cosmology, the underworld, known as the Jewet, was not a place of punishment, but of transformation. The sun god Ra traveled through it each night. The soul of the pharaoh followed a similar path after death. This journey required navigation through darkness, water, caverns, and gates, each guarded not by fear but by knowledge. The subterranean chamber may represent this stage of the journey. Its roughness reflects the unformed state before rebirth. Its depth places it closer to the underworld than any other chamber in the pyramid, and its silence suggests that it was never meant for the living to linger. It was a space of passage, not of presence. Beneath the plateau, natural and shaped, the Giza plateau itself is riddled with natural limestone fissures and caverns. Some were known to the ancient builders. Others may have been discovered only as construction progressed. Evidence suggests that certain underground features were incorporated into the pyramid's design rather than avoided. This blending of natural earth and human engineering reveals a philosophy of harmony rather than dominance. The builders did not seek to conquer the land. They listened to it. The subterranean chamber, carved directly into bedrock, connects the pyramid not just to the sky, but to the earth itself, a vertical axis of eternity. Water, earth, and forgotten function. One of the most intriguing theories surrounding the underground chambers involves water. Ancient Egypt was shaped by water, by the Nile's flood, by subterranean aquifers, by symbolic waters of creation. Some researchers believe water once flowed beneath the plateau. Channels and depressions within the chamber suggest the possibility of controlled water presence. Not flooding, but ritual movement. In Egyptian belief, water was purification, renewal, the boundary between worlds. If water once entered these chambers, it would not have been accidental, it would have been sacred. Engineering beyond visibility, the precision of the pyramid above ground is well known. But beneath the surface, engineering choices become more enigmatic. Angles align, depths correspond. The descending passage aligns with cardinal directions with astonishing accuracy. Even the roughness of the subterranean chamber appears intentional when viewed through a symbolic lens. The builders knew exactly what perfection looked like. So when they chose imperfection, it meant something. Forgotten workers, enduring purpose. No records name the workers who carved this chamber. No inscriptions praise their labor. Yet their hands shaped the very foundation of one of humanity's greatest monuments. They worked by lamplight in confined spaces far from the sun. Their task was not to create beauty, it was to create meaning. And meaning in ancient Egypt did not require explanation. It required alignment with the earth, the sky, and the eternal cycle. The silence that persists standing within the subterranean chamber today, one feels a profound stillness. Sound seems to retreat. Time feels suspended. This is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of completion. Whatever purpose this space served, it was fulfilled long ago, and it was never meant to speak again. Gentle transition forward above this chamber. Higher within the pyramid, other spaces await, more refined, more precise, more luminous. In the next part of our journey, we will rise from the depths into the ascending passages and the grand gallery, where geometry, light, and cosmic alignment converge to guide the soul upward. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened into the deep stone beneath the desert, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time, from the deepest silence beneath the earth. The journey does not end in darkness. It turns. It rises. Within the Great Pyramid, after the long descent into the bedrock chamber, there exists a subtle shift in direction, a quiet invitation to ascend. The stone beneath one's feet angles upward, and the air itself seems to change, as though the structure is gently guiding the traveler from the realm of beginnings toward a place shaped by intention and light. This is the ascending passage. It is narrow, precise, and unmistakably purposeful, and it marks the moment where the pyramid's hidden story begins to unfold in full clarity. The choice of direction in ancient Egyptian thought, direction held meaning. Downward movement symbolized return, to the waters of chaos, to the moment before creation. Upward movement, by contrast, reflected emergence, renewal, and rebirth. The ascending passage was not merely a corridor. It was a choice. At a concealed junction within the pyramid, the upward path branches from the descending one. Early explorers nearly missed it entirely, its entrance blocked by carefully placed stone plugs meant to disguise its existence. This concealment was not to confuse thieves alone. It was to ensure that only those who knew the path, ritually or symbolically, could proceed. The pyramid does not reveal its secrets all at once. It asks the traveler to notice. Precision in silence, the ascending passage climbs at an exact angle, its walls polished smooth, its ceiling low. Here, the craftsmanship changes. The roughness of the subterranean chamber gives way to careful refinement. Each block fits its neighbor with patient accuracy. The passage narrows just enough to slow movement, encouraging deliberate steps. This is architecture designed for contemplation. Light once provided by flickering lamps would have cast elongated shadows along the walls. Every sound would echo softly, reinforcing the sense of movement through a sacred interior. The builders understood that space itself could guide the mind. Arrival at the grand gallery, then suddenly the passage opens. The ceiling lifts. The walls rise. One enters the grand gallery. This space feels less like a corridor and more like an idea given form. Nearly 9 meters high, the grand gallery stretches upward in a soaring, corbelled design. Layer upon layer of stone recedes inward as it climbs, creating a sense of elevation and balance. It is a place of transition, not yet the final destination, but no longer the realm of beginnings. Here, the ancient Egyptians demonstrated a mastery not only of engineering, but of psychological design. The gallery inspires calm awe, not intimidation. It invites upward movement, not hesitation. Geometry as language, the proportions of the grand gallery are precise beyond necessity. Its angles, lengths, and ratios echo patterns found throughout Egyptian sacred architecture. Some scholars suggest that these dimensions relate to mathematical constants and cosmic measurements. Others see the gallery as a symbolic ladder, a path the soul must climb as it moves toward eternal union with the stars. What remains clear is that nothing here is accidental. The narrowing walls create an illusion of greater height. The ascending floor subtly encourages forward motion. Grooves carved into the sides may have held beams or served ritual purposes long forgotten. Every detail speaks quietly. The absence of decoration, unlike later temples covered in inscriptions and reliefs, the interior of the Great Pyramid is almost entirely undecorated. No hieroglyphs proclaim the name of the king. No scenes depict gods or offerings. This absence is itself meaningful. The pyramid was not meant to be read. It was meant to be experienced. Meaning was embedded in proportion, orientation, and sequence, not in words. The ancient Egyptians trusted that those who understood would feel the design without needing explanation. The king's chamber, a place of stillness at the upper end of the grand gallery, lies the king's chamber. Constructed of red granite transported from distant quarries, it stands in quiet contrast to the limestone passages below. The chamber is austere. A single granite sarcophagus rests within, empty. No lid, no inscriptions. Above the chamber, hidden relieving spaces distribute the immense weight of the pyramid, an engineering solution so advanced it remained unmatched for centuries. But beyond its technical brilliance, the chamber evokes something else entirely: stillness. This was not a place of display. It was a place of alignment. Stars beyond stone, the king's chamber contains narrow shafts angled toward specific regions of the sky. Though once thought to be ventilation shafts, their precise orientation suggests a symbolic function. They align with stars sacred to the Egyptian afterlife, stars associated with eternity and divine rebirth. To the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh did not simply die. He joined the imperishable stars. The pyramid was a vessel for this transformation, guiding the soul through stone corridors toward cosmic order. Balance between earth and sky, the journey through the pyramid mirrors the structure of the universe as the Egyptians understood it. Below, the earth, water, and the realm of transformation. Above, the sky, the stars, and eternal balance. The grand gallery stands between these realms. It is the bridge, the moment where the soul rises, prepared but not yet complete. Gentle transition forward, yet even here, within the most refined chamber, mysteries remain. Hidden shafts, unexplored voids, spaces above and beyond what is visible. In the next part of our journey, we will turn our attention to the sealed doors, hidden shafts, and modern discoveries that suggest the pyramid still holds secrets untouched by time. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened beneath the rising stone, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. High within the heart of the Great Pyramid, beyond the grand ascent of stone and the stillness of the king's chamber, there are passages so narrow that no human body was ever meant to pass through them. They were not corridors for footsteps. They were pathways of intention, Carved with care, angled with precision, and sealed with patience, these hidden shafts remained unseen for thousands of years, silent, undisturbed, and waiting beneath layers of belief and stone. It is here, within these confined and overlooked spaces, that some of the most profound mysteries of the pyramids quietly endure. The shafts that led nowhere from both the king's chamber and the queen's chamber, narrow shafts extend outward into the body of the pyramid. For generations, scholars assumed these shafts were practical, meant to allow air into the chambers during construction. But the truth, revealed slowly and without spectacle, suggested otherwise. Some shafts do not reach the outside at all. They stop, they turn, they end behind sealed stone. Such design makes little sense if air was their purpose. But if symbolism was their intent, then their silence speaks volumes. The Queen's Chamber, a place of balance despite its name, the Queen's Chamber likely never housed a queen. It lies at the heart of the pyramid, between earth and sky, descent and ascent. Its ceiling forms a pointed gable, unlike any other chamber within the structure. Its walls are plain. Its presence is deliberate. From this chamber extend two shafts, narrower than those above, angled toward different regions of the sky. For centuries, they remained unexplored, too small for humans, too fragile to disturb, until technology allowed us to listen rather than intrude. The first door in the late 20th century, a small robotic explorer was sent into one of these shafts. Slowly, carefully, it moved through the stone-lined passage, illuminated only by its own light. After meters of silent travel, it encountered something unexpected. A limestone door, smooth, carefully fitted, set into the passage as if it were a final punctuation mark. Two small copper handles protruded from its surface. They were not functional in any mechanical sense. They were symbolic, a door that was never meant to be forced. A door behind a door. When later technology allowed a glimpse beyond this first barrier, another door was found behind it, and then another space, each sealed, each untouched. No inscriptions explained their meaning. No records spoke of what lay beyond. These were not protections against thieves. They were not meant to guard treasure. They were thresholds. Ancient intentions, modern questions. The presence of sealed doors deep within the pyramid suggests a ritual or symbolic purpose long forgot. Perhaps these doors represented stages of the soul's journey. Perhaps they marked moments of transition, known only to the priests who designed them. In ancient Egypt, knowledge was layered. Not all truths were written. Some were enacted, some were sealed. The language of sealing. To seal something in ancient Egypt was not simply to close it. It was to complete it. Sealing marked the end of a process, the fulfillment of a purpose. The untouched nature of these doors implies they were never meant to be reopened. Their function may have been fulfilled the moment they were closed. Time itself became the guardian. Modern scans and hidden voids. In recent years, non-invasive scanning technologies have revealed voids within the Great Pyramid previously unknown. Large spaces, silent volumes, empty of debris, unrecorded in any ancient plan. These voids exist above known chambers, aligned with architectural features below. Their purpose remains unclear, but their presence confirms one enduring truth: the pyramid is not fully understood. Respecting the unknown, modern archaeology has learned to move more gently. Rather than breaking stone, researchers now listen to cosmic rays, to subtle shifts in density, to echoes returning from unseen spaces. This patience mirrors the philosophy of the pyramid's builders. They did not rush. They trusted time. Perhaps these spaces remain unopened because they were meant to remain so. Not everything hidden was meant to be revealed. Gentle transition forward beyond sealed doors and silent voids lies a deeper question. Why the pyramids were placed where they stand, aligned not just with the earth beneath them, but with the heavens above. In the next part of our journey, we will step back from the stone corridors and look outward to the plateau, the stars, and the ancient map that connects the pyramids to the sky itself. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened behind sealed stone, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. Step away now from the inner corridors of stone, from the sealed doors and narrow shafts, and allow the mind to rise outward, beyond the pyramid walls, beyond the chambers and hidden voids. Stand once more upon the Giza plateau. Here, under an open sky that has changed little since antiquity, the pyramids reveal another layer of their purpose. They are not isolated monuments. They are not random achievements of engineering. They are positioned. They are aligned. They are part of a far greater design, one that connects earth to sky, stone to starlight, and human memory to the slow, eternal movement of the heavens. To understand the forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids, one must also understand what the pyramids were built to face. Above them. The plateau as sacred ground long before the Great Pyramid rose, the Giza Plateau was already a place of significance. Its limestone bedrock formed a natural elevation above the Nile floodplain. It was stable, enduring, and visible from great distances. To the ancient Egyptians, elevation was not merely physical, it was symbolic. Higher ground was closer to the gods. The plateau overlooked the fertile lands of the living, yet stood apart from them. It existed between worlds, the cultivated earth and the boundless desert. This boundary mattered. In Egyptian belief, the desert was the realm of transformation, the place where the sun died each evening and was reborn by morning. It was a land of passage, not abandonment. The pyramids were placed precisely at this threshold. Orientation to the cardinal directions, one of the most astonishing facts about the Great Pyramid is its orientation. Its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. The margin of error is so small that even modern instruments struggle to match it. This alignment was not accidental, nor was it achieved through guesswork. The ancient Egyptians observed the sky carefully. They tracked the movement of stars, the rising and setting of the sun, and the slow drift of constellations across generations. North, in particular, held deep meaning. It was the direction of the circumpolar stars, those that never set, that never disappeared below the horizon. They were called the imperishable ones. The imperishable stars to the ancient Egyptians, the circumpolar stars represented eternity. Unlike other stars that rose and fell, these remained constant, circling endlessly around the celestial pole. They did not die. They did not vanish. They endured. The pharaoh, upon death, was believed to join these stars, becoming eternal, unchanging, and divine. The pyramid, aligned with true north, served as a cosmic anchor. Its internal passages and shafts formed pathways not just through stone, but through belief. The journey upward within the pyramid mirrored the soul's journey toward these imperishable stars. Orion and the celestial blueprint beyond the north, another constellation held special importance. Orion. In Egyptian mythology, Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth, resurrection, and the afterlife. Osiris was not a distant deity. He was a king who died and was restored, a ruler who crossed from mortality into eternal order. The placement of the three main pyramids at Giza has long drawn comparison to the three stars of Orion's belt. While the debate continues among scholars, the resemblance is difficult to ignore. More compelling still is the internal alignment of certain shafts within the Great Pyramid toward regions of the sky associated with Orion and Sirius. Sirius, the brightest star, marked the annual flooding of the Nile, a renewal of life. Together, these celestial markers formed a cosmic narrative: death, rebirth, eternity. The pyramids as instruments of time, the pyramids were not static objects. They interacted with light and shadow. At specific times of year, sunlight would strike their faces in particular ways, illuminating edges, casting long shadows, and marking seasonal transitions. The east-west orientation connected the pyramids to the daily cycle of the sun: rising, setting, rebirth. The pyramid was, in this sense, a stone calendar, a marker of cosmic rhythm. Its chambers and corridors echoed this rhythm internally, guiding the soul through stages that reflected the passage of the sun through the underworld each night. The hidden connection below what is often overlooked is how this celestial alignment extends downward. The underground chambers and tunnels beneath the pyramids were not separate from the sky-based design. They were its reflection. As above, so below. The subterranean chamber represented the primeval waters. The ascending passage symbolized emergence. The grand gallery marked ascent. The upper chambers aligned with the stars. The pyramid was not built from top to bottom. It was conceived as a complete cosmological journey, and the forbidden chambers beneath it were essential to that journey. Sacred geometry and invisible order Egyptian architects worked with ratios and proportions that reflected harmony. These proportions were not decorative, they were metaphysical. The slope of the pyramid's sides, the height of its chambers, the angles of its passages, all corresponded to principles of balance and order known as Ma'at. Ma'at was not a goddess alone. It was truth, balance, cosmic harmony. The pyramids were physical expressions of Ma'at. To disturb them unnecessarily was to disrupt balance. Perhaps this is why certain chambers were sealed and left untouched. Their purpose was complete the moment they were closed. The plateau at night, imagine the Giza plateau under a moonless sky 4,000 years ago. No city lights, no modern noise, only the stars. The pyramids would have stood as dark silhouettes against the heavens, their edges catching faint starlight. Priests and astronomers may have observed the sky from this very ground, tracking the movement of Orion, Sirius, and the imperishable stars. The plateau itself may have functioned as an observatory, its monuments serving as markers and sightlines. In this stillness, the connection between earth and sky would have felt immediate, personal. Knowledge passed without words. The ancient Egyptians did not leave behind manuals explaining these alignments. They did not inscribe their full cosmology onto walls for future generations. Knowledge was passed through training, ritual, and experience. The pyramids were classrooms of stone. To walk their passages was to learn not intellectually but intuitively. Those who understood did not need explanation. Those who did not were not meant to. The modern eye, the ancient mind today, we approach the pyramids with instruments, scans, and theories. We seek answers. the ancient Egyptians sought alignment. Their questions were different. They did not ask how long something would last. They asked whether it fit into eternal order. The forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids, when viewed through this lens, may not contain objects at all. They may contain meaning. Gentle transition forward as the stars wheel slowly overhead and the plateau settles into its ancient quiet. Another question emerges, one that lingers gently without urgency. If the pyramids were designed as complete cosmological journeys, why were some chambers left hidden? Why were certain passages sealed away from both the living and the dead? In the next part of our journey, we will explore forgotten inscriptions, lost pyramid texts, and subtle clues that hint at knowledge intentionally withheld, reserved for silence rather than revelation. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened beneath the turning stars, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. There are truths in ancient Egypt that were never carved into stone. They were not painted onto temple walls, nor etched into sarcophagi for future eyes to decipher. Instead, they were carried in silence, passed from teacher to student, priest to initiate, generation to generation. The pyramids themselves speak this language of quiet understanding. They do not explain, they imply. And beneath their immense stone forms, within chambers sealed and passages concealed, lies a tradition that valued restraint as much as revelation. To understand the forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids, we must now turn to what was not said, and what was intentionally left unrecorded. The nature of Egyptian knowledge, ancient Egyptian civilization, was not built on public instruction. Knowledge was layered. Some truths were shared openly, stories of gods, myths of creation, rituals of daily life. Other knowledge was restricted. Sacred texts were reserved for priests. Ritual formulas were memorized, not written. Certain names were spoken only in specific places at specific times. This was not secrecy born of fear, it was reverence. To the Egyptian mind, knowledge carried power. To misuse it or to expose it prematurely was to disturb cosmic balance. Thus, some knowledge was protected by silence. The pyramid texts, words that came later, the earliest pyramids, including the Great Pyramid of Khufu, contain no written texts within their chambers. This absence is striking. Later pyramids, built generations afterward, include inscriptions known today as the pyramid texts, spells, hymns, and instructions meant to guide the king through the afterlife. Why, then, were these texts absent from the earliest and greatest pyramid? One explanation is chronology. The pyramid texts may not have been formalized yet, but another explanation lingers quietly. The Great Pyramid did not need them. Its architecture was the text. Stone as instruction, every corridor, every chamber, every sealed shaft formed a narrative. The descent into the earth, the ascent toward light, the alignment with stars, the sealed thresholds. This was knowledge enacted, not explained. Those initiated into its meaning would understand without reading a single symbol. And those who were not would see only stone. Lost traditions of oral transmission, much of ancient Egyptian wisdom was transmitted orally. Priests memorized long sequences of ritual language. Architects trained apprentices through observation and practice, not blueprints. This oral tradition ensured that knowledge remained flexible, alive, and adaptable. But it also meant that when a tradition ended, it left little trace. The forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids may be remnants of such traditions. physical expressions of ideas that no longer have surviving explanations. The chamber without words, the Queen's chamber, often overlooked, offers a quiet example. It contains no inscriptions, yet its proportions, orientation, and acoustic qualities suggest deliberate design. Some researchers note that certain sounds resonate within it in unusual ways, as though the chamber was shaped to amplify vibration. In ancient Egyptian belief, sound carried creative power. The universe itself was spoken into being. Perhaps certain chambers were designed not for writing, but for voice. Sacred silence and sealed space. Sealing a chamber was an act of completion. Once sealed, it entered a different state of existence, not abandoned, fulfilled. The absence of artifacts within some sealed spaces may indicate that their function was not material. They were not storehouses, they were moments. Ritual acts performed once, then closed forever. Names that were never carved names held power in ancient Egypt. To know a true name was to hold influence. To erase a name was to erase existence. It is telling, then, that the Great Pyramid contains no name of Khufu within its finished chambers. His identity was known. It did not need repetition. Perhaps the pyramid was not meant to glorify a single ruler, but to serve as a universal model of cosmic order. The knowledge reserved for the few priesthood in ancient Egypt was not a single institution. It was a network of specialized roles: astronomers, ritualists, architects, caretakers. Each held part of the whole. No one person knew everything. This division ensured balance. It also ensured that no single failure could destroy the entire system. The forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids may reflect this philosophy. Each space holds meaning only in relation to others. To open one without understanding the whole would reveal nothing. Modern gaps in understanding today, we read fragments. We reconstruct from pieces, but ancient knowledge was not fragmented when it was alive. It was complete, held in minds, gestures, rituals, and alignments. What remains are the shells of those ideas. The chambers remain. The silence remains. The context does not. The role of restraint, modern curiosity, urges us to open, scan, penetrate. Ancient Egyptian wisdom urges patience. There is a quiet dignity in what has remained closed for millennia. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the forbidden chambers is not what they contain, but that they remind us of a time when restraint was considered a virtue. Gentle transition forward as we listen to the silence left behind by unwritten words. Another layer of mystery gently emerges. Not all chambers were sealed forever. Some were reopened, reused, or repurposed across centuries, each generation leaving subtle traces. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the long afterlife of the pyramids themselves. How time, memory, and changing beliefs reshaped their meaning without ever diminishing their presence. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened into unspoken knowledge, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. There comes a moment in the life of every monument when its builders are gone, its rituals fall silent, and its original purpose begins to fade into memory. For the pyramids of Giza, that moment did not arrive suddenly. It unfolded slowly across centuries as dynasties rose and fell, languages shifted, and the rhythms of belief changed. Yet through it all, the pyramids remained. They did not resist time, they absorbed it. And in doing so, they became something more than royal monuments. They became witnesses. The first generations after the builders in the centuries immediately following their construction, the pyramids were not forgotten. They were maintained. Priests continued to perform rituals at nearby temples. Offerings were made. Processions moved along causeways connecting the pyramids to the Nile. The chambers beneath the pyramids remained sealed, undisturbed. This was a time when the meaning of the pyramids was still understood, not by all, but by those entrusted with their care. They were not relics. They were active centers of belief, changing dynasties, shifting beliefs as Egypt entered new dynastic periods, burial practices evolved. Royal tombs moved away from pyramids and into hidden valleys and cliffside chambers. This shift did not represent rejection. It represented adaptation. The pyramids had fulfilled their role as cosmic models. Future rulers sought new forms of protection and symbolism. Yet even as royal attention shifted, the pyramids retained their sacred status. They were never dismantled, never abandoned. Their presence remained unquestioned. The first intrusions over time, knowledge of sealed passages faded. Stone plugs were breached, corridors were forced open. These intrusions were not carried out with understanding, but with curiosity or desperation. No records describe what early intruders expected to find, but what they encountered was not treasure, it was silence. Empty chambers, unmarked stone, a structure that offered no easy answers, and yet the deepest chambers remained untouched. The pyramids in the age of travelers, by the time Greek travelers arrived in Egypt, the pyramids were already ancient. Herodotus wrote of them with awe and uncertainty. Stories mingled with speculation. Some believed the pyramids were granaries. Others imagined vast libraries of lost knowledge sealed within. These interpretations tell us less about the pyramids and more about the human need to explain what endures beyond understanding. Layers of interpretation, each era projected its own beliefs onto the pyramids. To some, they were symbols of tyranny. To others, of divine wisdom. To others, still, of forgotten technology. But the pyramids themselves remained unchanged. They accepted each interpretation without confirmation or denial. This quiet endurance is part of their power. Medieval Egypt and living stone in medieval times, the pyramids were part of a living landscape. Stones were occasionally removed for nearby construction. Yet even then, the pyramids were approached with respect. Local traditions spoke of their antiquity and significance. The chambers beneath remained largely unexplored, not out of fear, but out of acceptance. They were old, they were complete, they were not meant to be altered. The birth of modern curiosity, the modern era brought a new kind of attention. Scientific measurement, systematic exploration, documentation. For the first time, explorers entered the pyramids not as pilgrims or thieves, but as observers. They measured angles, mapped passages, recorded dimensions. Yet even with this precision, the forbidden chambers remained elusive. Technology could reveal their presence, but not their purpose. The pyramid as memory itself over time, the pyramids ceased to belong to any one culture. They became global symbols. Yet beneath this shared fascination lies a quieter truth. The pyramids are not monuments frozen in the past. They are memory made physical. They hold within them the accumulated interpretations of every age that encountered them. And still, they keep their core intact. What was never lost despite centuries of attention, the fundamental mystery of the pyramids remains. Not how they were built, not when, but why certain spaces were created and then sealed forever. This persistence of mystery is not a failure of understanding. It is evidence of intention. Some things were meant to endure without explanation. Gentle transition forward as the long arc of time curves around the pyramids, we arrive gently at the present moment, standing at the edge of what we can know, looking inward toward what remains hidden. In the final part of our journey, we will gather the quiet threads of stone, sky, silence, and memory, and reflect on what the forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids continue to offer those who listen without haste. And so, as the echoes of the ancient world softened beneath the patient passing of centuries, the mystery rested once more beneath the quiet passage of time. There is a moment, after a long journey, when movement slows and reflection takes its place. Not because there is nothing left to explore, but because understanding no longer comes from seeking farther. It comes from listening more deeply. Beneath the pyramids of Giza, beneath the sealed chambers, hidden voids, and untraveled passages, there exists a silence that has never been broken. It is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of completion. And it is here within this stillness that the story of the forbidden chambers truly rests. The architecture of intention the ancient builders of the pyramids did not construct blindly. They planned across generations. They measured not only space but meaning. Every chamber carved beneath the pyramids reflects a deliberate choice. What to reveal, what to conceal, what to seal, and what to leave unfinished. The subterranean chamber, rough and elemental, anchors the pyramid to the earth itself. The ascending passages guide movement upward, gently and without urgency. The sealed shafts point not toward discovery, but toward alignment. Nothing here is accidental, and nothing demands explanation. Knowledge that was never lost, it is tempting to believe that the ancient Egyptians lost knowledge, that something slipped away with time. But perhaps this is not entirely true. Perhaps the knowledge was never lost. Perhaps it was simply never meant to be separated from its context. The pyramids were not books. They were experiences. To understand them fully would have required participation in a living tradition. Rituals performed, words spoken, movements practiced, and silences respected. When that tradition ended, the stone remained, complete. The purpose of sealed space modern minds often seek access, but ancient wisdom often valued restraint. The sealed chambers beneath the pyramids may not contain objects, scrolls, or hidden technologies. Their value may lie in the act of sealing itself. A chamber sealed is a moment preserved, a threshold crossed only once, a space made sacred by being left alone. In this way, the forbidden chambers teach a lesson rarely remembered, that not everything meaningful must be opened. The pyramid as a mirror, the pyramids reflect the sky above and the earth below, but they also reflect us. What we seek in them often reveals more about our own time than about theirs. When we seek answers, we find silence. When we seek power, we find balance. When we seek certainty, we find patience. The pyramids do not argue, they wait. Stillness as a form of knowledge in ancient Egypt, stillness was not emptiness. It was potential. The quiet spaces beneath the pyramids were not unused. They were fulfilled. Their purpose was not repetition, but completion. To enter them now would not revive their meaning. It would only change their state. And perhaps the greatest respect we can offer is to allow them to remain exactly as they are. The long view of time, 4,500 years have passed since the first stones were set in place. Empires have risen and fallen. Languages have been born and forgotten. Yet beneath the desert, the chambers remain unchanged. They do not decay, they do not erode, they simply endure. This endurance is not accidental. It is the result of a worldview that understood time not as an enemy, but as a companion. A quiet legacy, the forbidden chambers beneath the pyramids offer no spectacle, no dramatic revelation, no final answer. Instead, they offer something subtler and perhaps more enduring. They offer calm. They remind us that mystery does not require resolution to have value. That wonder does not fade simply because it remains unanswered. Standing at the edge of understanding, to stand before the pyramids today is to stand at the edge of understanding. We can measure, we can scan, we can theorize, but there will always remain spaces beyond reach, by design, not by accident. These spaces are not failures of knowledge, they are expressions of wisdom. The journey completed. As our journey through the forbidden chambers draws to a close, we return not with answers, but with perspective. We have walked beneath the earth and risen toward the stars. We have listened to silence and observed alignment. We have followed stone paths that were never meant to be hurried. And in doing so, we have come to understand something quietly profound. That the greatest mysteries are not meant to be solved, they are meant to be carried. Final reflection and closing, and so, as the desert wind moves softly across the Giza plateau and the pyramids stand once more beneath the turning sky, the chambers below remain sealed, patient, complete, and undisturbed. They do not call out. They do not demand attention. They simply exist, holding their place in the long, unbroken rhythm of time. Thus, the mystery rests once more beneath the quiet passage of the ages. And the listener, having walked across forgotten stone and ancient belief, returns gently to the present, carrying with them a sense of calm wonder, deep time, and the enduring beauty of what remains unseen.